Our wrinkly pink meat computers think in terms of stories, and it's not just because we're constantly looking at fucking screens, which we are, it's because it saves time. Without even being aware of it, everything we observe in this persistent illusion we call reality either has an entire or partial story, or if it's a new observation, it gets fitted into an old story or gets a new story attached to it on the fly, or some variation thereof. You can see this for yourself, just look at anything. Right now you're looking at me, and you either already have some story about me based on previous encounters, or you're sliding me into an old story developed elsewhere, or perhaps even are creating a new one as I speak. The story of a glorious fucking mustache, or the story of a motherfucker you don't want to sit across from whilst eating soup. Every object, place, person, action, or event has a story within the background static of your thought plane. Our brain does this so it doesn't have to examine every single fucking thing every single fucking time we observe it. You know, like if every time we saw a tree, we'd be like, oh, what's that fluffy thing? Why is it there? What do it do? How do it know? And we'd have to remember and reassess all the characteristics of the thing every damn time, and we'd never get anything done. But instead, we see something and fit it into a pre-made story. The story here is it's a forest. What's next? We extrapolate and fill in blanks with a background inner narrative, which allows us to process reality quicker and move the fuck on. And embedded within each story or narrative is one of three sneaky little fuckers: attraction, aversion, or indifference. And so we bounce around on the pinball machine of reality like pinballs made of meat, bouncing off of and away from aversions, or we thrust forth with the pinball paddle of desire towards attractions and generally do a bunch of bouncing back and forth off shit we don't really care about. But what if you could pump the fucking brakes for a minute and slow down and attempt to see reality just as it is rather than your story about what it is? It's not easy to do because you can't make it a story about how it's not a story. You have to just sort of let go. It's very hard to break through such a fundamental paradigm of brain function, but even just attempting to do so will help you become aware of your stories and how you categorize every damn thing as I like it, I hate it, or I don't give a shit about it. If you could observe any little mundane bit of reality just as it is, without your stories, be it a rock or leaf or fingernail or dog turd, your mind would be blown, and through the shards of your scattered paradigm, you'd get a glimpse of the interconnectedness of the cosmos, which you'll immediately fuck up by creating a story about that too. The story will help you remember that glimpse, but it'll just be a story of a story. The secret to happiness and the doorway into an experiential awareness of actual reality is simply this: you don't mind what happens. That simple statement, though, is an onion. I don't mind already has some story written in your mind about what not minding looks like. But peel the onion past your story and listen carefully. It's about not minding. Feel me? Being present is stepping out of your temporal story. Ending or at least enduring suffering is about dissipating the story of attraction and aversion, because suffering is simply an aversion to what is. That's it. Not minding isn't some forced neutrality. It doesn't mean don't do shit or respond appropriately. It's using intellect to get shit done, but within it's an unwinding of your stories about reality and attraction and aversion. This state that can only be sort of relaxed into will transcend your stories and thought events and is what awakening and or being present really means. Until you encapsulate it in a story again and fuck it up. Here's a clue, boo. Meditation, which is learning to let go of thought, will help encourage and extend those glimpses that transcend your stories. Every little thing that happens to you becomes a damn story, so imagine when you get a glimpse of the primordial state of existence that flows through all things and presents in us as consciousness. Fuck yeah, you're making a story about that shit. But through the process of weakening the binding power of thought through meditation, you can stay in it a wee bit longer, if and when it happens. This doesn't have to be woo-woo, you know, that's just a story too. Here's another story. Quantum experiments of reality indicate that it is a wave function that collapses in accordance with our expectations and observation. Perhaps reality is a story written by you. Every word is desire and fear, love and hate, and whatever the vocabulary of your awareness is, in whatever ratio, becomes the paragraphs of your experience. There's a story for you. What I'm talking about is the blank and empty page under the ink. We're so busy with the story we forget the paper, and because we forgot the paper, we are unknowingly writing under the false pen name called me, and are the unaware authors of our own existence in the cosmic book of wakeful emptiness. So go write your story with awareness. People call that shit manifestation, but that's just a story too. Or see what happens when you put down your pen and pick up your purpose. Toodles.